Water pump failure is a distinct possibility for those who hang on to their cars for more than a few years. But the pump rarely fails early on in a car's life. The same is true of the timing and balance shaft belts that are key engine parts on many cars. So by the time the water pump requires replacement, you will probably be close to or beyond the recommended service interval for replacement of the belts. Likewise, if your vehicle has reached the recommended service interval for belt replacement, the water pump is probably well worn. Belt and water pump replacement have much in common in terms of the parts that have to be removed, so doing both jobs at once is a good idea. Let's talk about why that's a good idea and how AutoZone can help you do the job right here, right now. Welcome to the AutoZone DIY Garage. Both water pump failures and timing belt problems can leave you stranded, so you don't want to wait until you're on the side of the road to service these parts. What's more, on some vehicles, the water pump is driven by the timing belt or the balance shaft belt, so it wouldn't make sense to service just one of these parts. AutoZone stocks and sells timing belt water pump kits for most vehicles that have a timing belt driven water pump. An AutoZone expert can tell you what's available for your vehicle. Some DIYers get a bit confused when the talk turns to engine belts because today's overhead camshaft engines may be equipped with 2 or 3 belts. One is the serpentine belt that turns the accessories on the front of the engine. It's usually visible and easily serviced. The second belt is the timing belt. That's the one you don't see because it's behind the engine's front cover. Some engines might also have a third belt that turns the balance shaft. It too would not be visible. Either the timing belt or the balance shaft belt are used to drive the water pump in some vehicles. The timing belt is flexible and has teeth on one side that engage similarly toothed pulleys on the crankshaft and camshaft. The timing belt is driven by the crankshaft and turns the camshaft at half engine speed, keeping it in sync with the crankshaft and the engine's operating cycles. The cam, of course, opens and closes the intake and exhaust valves. If the timing belt slips a notch, the engine won't run or will run poorly because the valves will be out of sync with the pistons, fuel injection, and ignition. If the belt breaks, the engine won't run at all. What's worse, many engines, 70% of those equipped with timing belts, are built with what's called an interference valve train that doesn't leave room for error. If the timing is out of sync and the valves don't open and close at the right time, they can crash into the pistons, causing considerable damage or maybe even destroy the engine. That's why automakers recommend timing belt replacement at service intervals that can vary from about 60,000 miles to 100,000 miles. You don't want to wait until the belt breaks to replace it. Don't ignore the service interval, and if your water pump should fail before you reach that mark, replace the timing belt and/or balance shaft belt while servicing the pump. Did you know some overhead cam engines have timing chains rather than belts? Most chains are meant to last a long time and, in some cases, the life of the vehicle. But why not just replace the water pump if it fails and wait until your car reaches a service interval mileage mark to replace the timing belt? That's an easy one. It just so happens that many of the parts that have to be removed to replace the water pump must also be unbolted to get at the timing and balance shaft belts on cars that are so equipped. These belts are usually located behind a cover on the front of the engine and either might drive the water pump. To ensure you'll have the parts you'll need to do both jobs, AutoZone offers timing belt water pump kits for most vehicles equipped with timing belt-driven water pumps. This kit is for a 1997 Honda Accord with a 2.2-liter engine. Depending on the application, the kits may include a timing belt, a balance shaft, tensioner pulleys, hydraulic tensioners, a water pump, and a water pump gasket. That means that rather than running back and forth to your AutoZone store to get the parts you got the first time, you can get the parts you need to do the job in kit form. As you can see, the Honda kit comes with the water pump, timing belt, balance shaft tensioner, timing belt tensioner, water pump seal and gasket, and instructions. Why so many parts? It's never a good idea to replace a timing belt or balance shaft belt without installing new hardware. The job is too complex to risk having to do it again because an inexpensive part wasn't replaced, like this tensioner. Failing to replace the hardware can reduce the life expectancy of a new belt by as much as 50%. Timing belt replacement is a complex job. Quite a few parts have to be removed on most cars, and the belt has to be installed with the cam and crank in exactly the right position. The water pump timing belt kits that are available for certain vehicles include detailed instructions, but you should also have a service manual on hand if you're going to attempt the job on any car or truck. Study the repair manual procedure before attempting the job. If you're not sure you can handle the task, don't attempt it. You should also review the video, When to Replace Your Timing Belt and Components. You'll find it in the AutoZone video library. That completes our explanation of why it's a good idea to replace the water pump and timing belt at the same time. If you'd like more information, just stop in and talk to an AutoZone expert. They can provide some tips that can help you do the work yourself and tell you exactly what's needed. Get in the zone, AutoZone.